Hey guys, welcome to another edition of On Social, the show that talks about everything that has to do with online media, live video production, social media, everything that you need to do to get your message heard and out and about. And I am joined today by Mr. Jeffrey Fitzgerald from Jeff and High Def TV. Welcome.
Hey, Steve, always awesome to be part of the gang here. And I think we're going to have a good conversation today for sure.
You know, it's funny because it seems like you and Marty have been kind of alternating weeks. It's like you miss each other by 1 week. So he's traveling this week. For those that don't know, he's actually on a plane right now. He could be, if he's got Wi-Fi, could be watching it and going, "Oh no." Uh, so he was stranded in the snow. So the second he landed, Jeff, he started complaining that it's cold there and it's snowing. And I said, "See, you should have stuck around and stayed on the show." But
Well, there's rumors going around that, that anymore nobody sees us both in the same place at the same time. But I want to put those rumors to rest. We're two different people. But yeah, I mean, I have a friend in Denver who's saying it was 18 degrees in Denver 2 days ago. So yeah, times are changing. The fall and winter are here for sure. So
Well, like I said, he's there, so he's not going to be joining us today. But we have an interesting topic that we wanted to talk to you about and bring up, and it's called visual storytelling. And I know Jeff from your days in video production, being on TV, this is something that makes or breaks a video producer, a broadcaster, a content creator. Because if you can't tell a good story with your visuals, you really aren't going to make it far.
yeah, I mean that's that is absolutely true. And I think I think the biggest misnomer is that especially in the world that we're in now, where we throw a lot of buzzwords around. We throw around value and content and story and brand and all these things. But at the end of the day, no matter what you're putting together on video, even if it's just pictures of your child and it's for a school or school play or something, you're telling a story. I mean, that's really what it is. And a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you get deeper in that, obviously you have the hero meets the villain, and there's that challenge in the middle where the hero's got to decide to overcome. And at the end of it, obviously, we want the hero to win. Those things. But story is critical to everything because that's what everything that we as a society and as humans we thrive off of. We want to hear the good story. If you're a baseball fan last night, I think everybody would value the fact that a team that went up, two games, lost the next three. It looked like they were down for the count, that they found a way to win the World Series. Those are stories when you really think about it. So a lot of what we do in media is we try to find out where those value points are within a broader journey of a story, and how do we reduce it down to something that in a matter of minutes we can tell the essence of what it looks like, who the characters are, what was at stake, how do we overcome that, and then you're taking that person, taking that viewer along with you as the storyteller, hopefully to a great place of victory where at the end it says and they lived happily ever after, and that works for pretty much any video.
And that was something, we brought up in some episodes previous to this where, I had mentioned that, back in the day, not that long ago, but 8 or 10 years ago, I was on radio, and that was something that I learned early where you had to be able to describe what you were talking about, especially in the instance of us talking about tech. I had to be able to say, the iPhone that I'm holding here, I'm pulling up the interface and I'm going into this app under this menu system. So that way people listening were able to follow along with what I'm doing, even though they couldn't visually see it. But I think there are times of people doing video that they also lack the visual storytelling aspect when creating videos, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's funny because for those, I'm really going back now, way longer before I was even born. But there was the old broadcast War of the Worlds. I think it was like 1939, where Orson Welles was painting a picture of an alien invasion, and people bought it. It was that good. Back in the day, obviously people were a little bit more naive about the power of media and whether it's true or not. But stories, especially audibly, can be incredibly powerful, and I think that's where a lot of people in video make a mistake that's not easily seen, but certainly powerful, in that your audio tells as much of your story as your video. And it's really easy to think, hey, I'm going to get a shot of, that barn or of that particular person and these things and string it together. And that's my story. But if you're doing a story of somebody maybe who's a wood turner, a lot of times you can not even have narrative or voiceover over it, and you're literally showing segments of 20 seconds or 15 seconds, and all you're hearing is the grinding of the machine and then the scraping of the wood, and you're seeing the, the fibers fly off, and the glasses are on, and he's looking at his work up close and everything like that. That's how you tell a story, but it's the sounds that really bring that to life. And so I think it's a great lead into that, talking about radio, because if you begin to think both in terms of audio and video instead of just relying on the picture to tell it for you, I think you're going to be able to do things you never thought possible with your media.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people even going through, I mean, we see talking head shows all the time, and sometimes they're interesting, sometimes they're not. Sometimes getting into it, I think a lot of these people that are doing some video where it's I don't want to call it Blair Witch like, but you know what I mean, like the Blair Witch Project, where these guys are going through and they're giving you that point of view. That tells a story. Like you're seeing this unfold right before your eyes from the
That's right.
cameraman's
Yeah.
from that person's first perspective, if that makes sense. And you're going through and you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, I'm feeling the emotion that this person's going through because he's not seeing anything before I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it the exact moment that he's seeing it and experiencing it. And that works. I mean, that's painting a picture right
Oh
there
yeah.
for you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny because obviously it's Halloween. So talking about Blair Witch, 1999, that movie came out, shot on mini DV back in the day. That was a new consumer format that had a lot of quality with it. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like the highest grossing movie that year, or the highest grossing independent movie. And you're exactly right, because what they did is the way they shot it. Oh, and by the way, I think it was shot for $10,000.
Hmm.
And it was one of these things where they brought the fear right up close. You're now in the middle of it with them rather than kind of watching it from a distance. And it's the old Alfred Hitchcock with the you never see the guy in the shadows, but you'd always see the knife come up in the shadow, and things like that. And so perspective is a lot of it, being able to position your viewer in the eyes of where you want them in that moment. It's one thing to do a journey about the military and talking about IEDs and the tragedy and the things they have to overcome daily. It's a whole other thing to put yourself or put that camera in there, or put them on a GoPro with that person driving, trying to figure out, we got two routes here. Which one is the one that may be the safe one? And so by embedding your viewer into the story to that degree, those are home runs every time you do it. And it's just a matter of really trying to figure out how to glue that together in a way that has a lot of meaning behind it.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. They're saying in the chat room it was 30K, but even still at 30,000, I mean,
Yeah,
where are
30.
you going to find it? Where are you going to find a movie made for that, right? But it
Yeah, no, that's awesome. My numbers are from 1999, because when I was
yeah.
working for UUNet, we were in the internet. We were all talking about how great it was. But even the numbers of with the ratio, what it did is it proved that for everybody watching today, what it really proved, it's a great myopic example that you don't need millions of dollars of equipment to hit a home run with your media. They told a story with a handy cam, basically running through the woods of somewhere in Maryland. And I thought when I watched a lot of it, most of it was just, it was kind of like smoke and mirrors. It was more, is the bad guy over here? What's over here making noise? That kind of thing. And did a brilliant job with it. But it really paints the picture that you can put your viewer right smack in the middle of that story with you, and it will do wonders for you for sure.
And it's one of those things where okay, so we always talk about quality. That's one of the things that we talk about on here, and for all intents and purposes, that wasn't really high quality. I mean, it was they shot it in high definition, but you know what I'm saying. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is just astronomical. This is phenomenal,
No,
right?
yeah, it wasn't high quality compared to Hollywood,
Right.
but and that's the funny thing. I mean, if you really look at a lot of the indie film scene, I'm not deeply ingrained in it, but I've got a good friend who I've been an extra in most of his movies. He's a feature filmmaker, and I've got my 1 second in a couple different places. The thing I hear from him all the time is that why indie is so big right now is that Hollywood thinks they have a particular formula that's not always working. And so anytime you can create a new story in an original way, tell a story that maybe there's an underserved community, because Hollywood's not serving everybody the way TV's not serving everybody. That's a lot of it, is in looking at who are the viewers that you're looking for. Where's their story? How do they relate to that? And he's always talking about the fact that there's always room for more great film and video.
So, okay, so if somebody wants to get started doing this, and they're saying, "Okay, Jeff, I understand what you're saying. You know, you have to be able to tell a story with your." What would you suggest to people to get going? Um, what are some things that they can learn to do to improve being a better visual storyteller for somebody that's watching and maybe they lack in speaking in detail? What are some of the things that you think you could suggest to them to get them rolling?
Well, number one, put your camera down. Believe it or not, put the camera down. Turn off the battery. Fold the viewfinder. If you're in the room of a school or of maybe a theater or whatever it might be that you're going to try to create a video about, observe, look around, look at the nuances in maybe the Art Deco gold foil work that's there. Look at the curtain that might be red and velvety that might be 80 years old. Look at the dust on the piano, things that maybe with a dolly shot you can kind of creep across and really not only tell the story of how relevant it is today because of the music that might be coming out of there from a great musician, but the fact that it's been there before we were, that kind of thing. And I think so if you put the camera down to begin with and you really write your story from a place of where are two things, where are the content points, the message points that you want in there, and then where are the visuals that support that. Then the other part of that, as I said earlier, is it's bringing in the sound, right? So it might be that you've got this beautiful shot of this baby grand piano and you're slowly coming up on where the keys are, and you're talking about, this place has not been used in 50 years, but then all of a sudden their hand comes into view and just taps, and all of a sudden they start playing this beautiful melody, and then it's where you can make the, that part of the video you can transition into. But all is not lost because this theater is coming back to life and we're going to be able to serve a broader community, that kind of thing. So I think if you can figure out where the real salient points are in the story itself and then try to figure out where the real deep visuals are, the other part of that, again, the triangle there is really the audio. So those three things I think can really make for something powerful.
So going forward, you're telling people to put down their camera, put down anything, and just focus on these things. So once they've done that, do you
Hmm.
suggest practicing in front of somebody? Like, I remember, and I think maybe this is why, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, so please don't anybody take this, but I think one of the best things that I could have done is taken a public speaking class in college because they help you understand how to tell a story through your speech, right? So you're not putting people to sleep. Is that
Yeah.
something also that could help in your opinion? I mean, it's helped me in my opinion, it's helped me do this to tell
Oh,
to
there's
more
no
vivid
one. Yeah,
stories.
Steve, you know this. I'm not the expert in this entire thing. I mean, we've all got giftings and we've had experience in different areas of life that show some good things from it. The reality is there's no one way to do this. There are people that have a knack for doing it without any narrative, and it's all just deep visuals. There are other people that know how to tell a story that's the Discovery Channel model that's really more documentary in how it looks. And I think that you take your experience with you wherever you go, right? And so when I say put down the camera, that's in that first meeting or that's in that walking through the story. You're take yourself as a viewer before that story before you ever do anything with the camera, because once you know the story you can tell it, and though where the real big parts of it are the transition points and things like that.
Mhm.
And then it's a matter of really figuring out how you want to capture it in a cinematic way, or if it's more of a brand story, if it's you and you're talking about you're a part of an insurance company. We see commercials all day long that are really comical in the way they're built with Geico and Liberty Mutual and other ones like that. If you're in a brand, you can find a way to tell stories maybe along the same lines in the office, or maybe it's a kind of thing like Farmers, where they always talk about the crazy accident that happened, but yet they were there for that person. We know that at this level, what I'm this example here, that we're not all at the place where we can do $500,000 level content and commercials. But even with your iPhone, you can do some really interesting things and tell some pretty cool stories, no matter what you're doing in your vocation and what you're doing as a product or service. It's just a matter of really, I think, pausing. We this is healthy for everybody right now anyway. Put your phone down at dinner or at a certain time at night. Think through what you want to put on video. Think through what that message looks like. I say it all the time. We confuse the technology with the technique far too often. And the video will look great at 4K. It'll do all the stuff that it says it will do in terms of resolution. But if your story's not there, it doesn't matter, because maybe you're thinking you're telling a story, but you're standing so far back. The focal point of that story is like this big in the screen, when really it should be up really close and everything else needs to go away. And so I say that is a practical thing. Another thing is anytime you're doing your video, always look at all four corners of the viewfinder before you come away with what you've got, because you may notice something in there that you can play off of, or something that doesn't need to be there that may be distracting. And so, a couple little things like that always help. But yeah, I mean, there's everybody finds their storytelling experience and abilities throughout life. That's really what it is.
And that's something we've talked about even with the switching. I mean, you're telling a story by the switching, by pulling things up. In fact, I started telling a news story here because this was completely unplanned, but we have somebody that actually joined us and he jumped in the third seat here. I don't know where he came from, but he's there. Jeremy, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
I thought, didn't he come off of Amazon? Is that where we got him? I don't know.
I no,
Good to see you, Jeremy.
Actually tipping.
he sat in there and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to the Stream Geeks Summit here coming up," and he says, "I got this mobile rig. You guys are talking about it." So he sent me some pictures. So I'm doing this behind the scenes while talking to Jeff and doing all this other stuff. Got Jeremy in here, got him all set up.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy's one of my colleagues, and Jeremy, what do you? We'll get your take on this too while we're here. What do you think about the whole visual storytelling and the aspect? I mean, what do you find interesting? I mean, obviously you tune into the show every week, so what's your take on it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I come from behind the lens sort of view. When I started out, my wife and I did wedding photography. So it's all about framing the shot and getting the shot. And I think having that background has really helped me come in the digital world a whole lot better, because you know when you're doing wedding photography and we start out in film, you have to budget every shot, make every shot count. You're not just clicking away. I was talking to a guy at NAB New York last week, and he was like, "Man, I just got married, and my photographer sent me 3,000 shots of my wedding." And he's like, "It was a short wedding." And he's like, "I don't know how in the world he shot 3,000 shots." But just, uh, in today's day and age, it's just like film everything and get it all out there. But it's like, if you're really telling a story, you need to frame those shots correctly, accurately, and really go for what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is that, especially if you're early in your video journey, that's the goal, right? Capture everything. When I did wedding videography way, way, way long ago, back when it was VHS and things, come away with like 8 hours of footage for what you had, sold somebody being an hour and a half video. You created a lot more work for yourself. But if you pay attention and you really begin to figure out, like you said, where those framed moments are, that tells the story. And today, just in the video market, video production market for weddings, it's incredible the quality that people are putting out now, drone shots and cinematic and slow motion. And it looks like they could all do the new season of The Bachelor. So
One of the things that I know I've struggled with doing this is I make these killer intros that are like 45 seconds long for a 10-minute video, and then I get these comments on YouTube like, "Dude, that intro is way too long. Like, you need to cut that down
mm,
to like 10 or 15 seconds." And I'm like, "But I can't make the killer intro for 10 or 15 seconds." It's like, you know, when you do a show like this, it's a half hour to an hour long, and you're doing a 30-second, intro. People are like, "All right, is the intro going to be done?" Sometimes you lose people even before you start
no,
it
that's
because of
true.
that.
Yeah, no, that's really true. But this is Steve, this is actually a creative intervention here, because what you're suffering from is something that all creatives deal with, and that is, don't mess with my artwork, right? Because you're
Yeah.
the one that it didn't exist before you did it. I can't tell you how many clients I work with that ask me what the final product will look like, and I say something very straightforward, but in my head I'm like, till I put it together, I'm not going to know, right? You're just as amazed as everybody else. But the thing is that that 45-second intro took something out of you. You kind of gave birth to that vision and things. And so then somebody comes along and they're like, yeah, can you fix this a little bit? It's like the guy from The Office. But the reality is that if you look at it a little bit, sometimes you can tweak here and there. You can turn it into what you need to. But we've all been there for sure.
So we're gonna take this time now because, like I said, we didn't really have anybody send in a video this week. We went through some of the other ones. So Jeremy was kind enough. So Jeremy, I'm gonna pull up, your screen here, or I shouldn't say screen, but I'm gonna pull up what you have here, the captures that you sent me. and let you kind of walk us through this a little bit. And I do apologize, everybody. It is on my desktop because um, he sent me the pictures. But let's start with the first
Yeah.
one all the way on the left.
Yeah, so on the left is that's actually at a customer site. NAB, when I was up in New York for the NAB, I had a customer do a demo of the new Wirecast gear unit. So that's in their studio. It's a big open room that they do town hall meetings and everything in. So what you see there is a mobile rig. It's actually a DJ rig. It and we can get product links for a lot of this stuff too. But it's a 10 by 6 DJ mobile rig that I have a four and you can't really see it because the lighting on the shots, but
Right.
um on the top there you can see the X keys controller, and then I have the Rodecaster Pro audio interface. Um, and both of those are connected into the Wirecast gear unit.
And
Um,
and
so
that's and then here's like a,
yep,
a a bigger picture, I guess, of the cabinet. Looks like they got some kind of drawer of some under here.
yep,
Let's go down to that.
yeah. So I put a four rack unit drawer in in that case. With that four rack unit drawer, it's deep enough to house two PTZ optics cameras. So it's got like the protective foam around it and everything, and that those cameras sit right in the foam. And next week when I'm at the Stream Geek Summit, I'll make sure and get some footage of the drawer opened up and show the cameras in it. But um, literally, and I'll get some good shots too of the back of the unit, that because I have a PoE switch in the cabinet as well, so that I can power those PTZ optics cameras. Literally, I run two cables out of that box, which is a power and an Ethernet cable, and you're up and streaming.
So are you just using like a basic USB monitor there that's like flip over?
No, that's a HDMI monitor.
Okay.
Or display port monitor that does have a USB or a USB interface as well. So it's a touch screen monitor, which works great with the Wirecast gear because you can just touch it, control everything there. But uh, the new Wirecast gear has display port outputs, and that plugs right
Mm.
into that monitor there.
Because I think
So
Marty
that's an awesome setup.
Yeah, I think Marty takes like a USB monitor. That's why I asked because I
Yep.
know a lot of guys they take those USB monitors for a portable rig. Um,
Yep.
so going forward with this, yeah, if you can get us some video when you're there, I think it'd be interesting to kind of see. Everybody's always looking for ideas for their setups. The case for that, I'm sure the question's going to come up if it hasn't already come up. What's the cost of the case? Do you know off the top of your head?
So it's more than just the case. The case, uh, the and actually I can maybe roll it out here if you give me a second. But it's a it was about $380 for the case itself,
Okay.
and then I added the mount for the monitor so that kind of lifts up off from the case, and then also there's a slant shelf that holds the X keys controller and the Rodecaster Pro. Um, so there's a couple elements added to that case. All in all, I think everything that you see there was right around $1,500 for the monitor, for the X keys, for the Rodecaster, the case, and everything with that unit. So it really wasn't that expensive to do a studio and a kit.
Jeff, while he pulls, I think he's going to roll that out there. You could have used this when you were doing what was it, a couple weeks ago when you were doing your debates. You
The
could have had
election debates, yeah.
all you would have had to do is roll this out of your studio, unplug your wires, throw it in the back of your vehicle, and go there, set it all up, and you know what I mean. And you're ready to go. You wouldn't have had to do any kind of rewiring.
Yeah, I mean, as much of a purist as I am, that's how you do it. That's easy and it's reliable. All the wires are plugged in. You don't have to worry about it. No, there's no doubt about it. It's a beautiful setup. It's a fly pack, and that's where the power lies. And I love the fact you've got a Roadcaster in there as well. I think there's a lot you can do with that and come away with some great video from there.
So I think he's got it set up. So let's kind of take a look now here. Jeremy, you looks like you got it. There you go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
So you can handle it. It's got the drawer built in down at the bottom here. So I don't know how much you can see, but I have a couple
Sure.
tools in there. The PTZ camera fits in the drawer.
Oh, that's brilliant.
The Roadcaster's on my desk right now, but that would fit right in here. Um, it's got the two rack unit space where the Wirecast gear will fit once I get my unit. Um, and then this back can open up, and I have I don't, hopefully you guys can hear me all right,
Yeah.
but I
Yep.
have a power switch adapter in there. I have the PoE switch kind of velcroed up underneath one of these shelves, so you really get a good, everything's there. It has a little port that comes out the side, and that's where you pull your power cable out of.
Wow,
That
that's
is
pretty
awesome.
nice. Yeah. I think Jeff, I think we need to invest in something like that because it's I mean,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I have a rack, but it's not like if I were going to take some of these pieces of gear out, yeah, I'd be in a world of hurt um
Yep.
with it, just to
Well,
be
that's what I
honest.
did with the election debates because there's certain things I had in here that I wanted to use, and it was, I think, 6 hours Sunday night. I had everything completely pulled out, wires everywhere, trying to put it back the way I had it, and, yeah, that's the way you do it, especially if you're gonna be doing it more than once. If that's part of your world, if you're gonna be a live streamer or a webcaster, that is an excellent example of the model that you wanna be able to go into, because at that point, none of the wiring should change, and you know what you're coming away with, and, as long as you got good bandwidth, you should be good to go.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I mean, Jeremy, yeah, he's getting everything situated back up as he's getting back in here. Um, so taking this, you're taking this rig to the Stream Geek Summit. You're going to be there,
Yep.
so if anybody's coming, they can take a look at this rig. It's in New York City. Um, should be a pretty good time, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And Stephen, I don't know if we can do this, but I do have a link. Like I kind of threw everything in a wish list on Amazon.
Okay.
So that's not always the best thing to go and purchase everything that way. Sometimes it's better to work with a vendor on something like that. But it at least gets you an idea of these are the products that we're doing, and this is kind of the build kit. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in that.
Yeah. I mean, if you could throw it into the LinkedIn chat, into the Facebook chat, and I don't even know. I know Joe Zahitis, he's usually back and forth in Discord. He might be able to take it over to Discord chat. And I know Brad's in there. Brad would probably take it. And so any link you could put in there, guys, just know Jeremy's putting in. It's a safe link. You're not going to get and there's no affiliate link to this. This is just a straight up. I'm assuming, right? It's just a straight up wish
Yep.
list.
Yep. Just a wish list.
So you can check that
Yep.
out. But honestly, like I've purchased for my DJ equipment back. I paid almost like I don't know 350, 400 for a road case. So I mean, I'm not opposed to even my rack over here. I think I spent $200-300 for it, and I have a mobile rack that I pulled the gear out of this rack to put in another rack just to make it smaller. Yeah, racks aren't cheap. They're just not.
Nope.
Yeah, the
No, I
monitor
don't.
the monitor looked like a great form factor too. It looked like, something that I think would, be interesting to see. I wanna get that list and take a look at it like, everybody else, so
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this kind of was kind of a last minute. But Jeremy, I'm really glad that you kind of jumped on here to kind of show us this because one of the things that we're trying to do, and we probably going to end up moving this, you know, in other shows, try to get it in the last 10 minutes as people send in videos.
Mhm.
We'd like to do that with the show because I think a lot of people find value in it because there's no one way to do everything, right? So you might have
Right.
something that somebody's like, wow, that's really awesome, that's going to fit my need. Where Jeff might say, well, for me, one of those elements will work, but the rest of it's just not. It's just not feasible. So I that's why we encourage people to send it in. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
like I said, I flew with this to NAB New York. TSA didn't like it too much, so they kind of tore it apart. So if any of you guys have good ideas for padding, like especially that monitor, um, it fits perfectly in the back cover of the case, but I need to pad it and strap it in and everything. But if any of you travel with gear like this and have input for how to check a big tech case like that, let me know, because that I need help with.
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah,
things, right? TSA, they just love that kind of gear, right, Jeff?
that was just what I'm going to say. It's I have an insulin pump, and so I get stopped every time for that. I can't imagine walking in with a box full of electronics. But one thing you can do if you're doing it more often is apply for a media access, where basically they know that this is the kind of thing you traditionally have with you, and they vet you in different ways. You still have to get searched, but at least they're more familiar with it, that it's not out of nowhere some guy's carrying a box full of buttons and knobs and plugs into something. So
Yep.
I gotta tell you this quick story here before we wrap this up. So back in 2011, 2010, 2011, I was going to CES for the first time, and LiveView came on as a sponsor. And they said to me, they said, we're going to send you this. I think it was like the LU50, whatever the backpack is, the baseline backpack was, which is about 80 to 100 pounds, right? So they send me this thing. They sent me a spare battery, which is probably about 30 pounds. I mean, the batteries were like enormous for this thing, not like the Solo that I have now that clips on your hip, right? So they send me this unit, getting ready for CES. I have this luggage that looks like I'm going away for a month because it's all equipment. So I go through TSA, and they had these guys come out in hazmat suits, it looked like. And they're taking this wand and going over it. I'm like, guys, it's a portable broadcasting unit. I said, I'm going to CES in Las Vegas to cover it live. And they said because of how thick the batteries were and everything like that, apparently. So they went over it. So I get on the plane, and there was a girl that was on there, and she had all this extra bags, and we had nowhere to put this. So I put the live view kind of wedged between my legs. Now, Vegas is a 6-hour trip from Pennsylvania.
mm,
And the girl comes back to me, and the stewardess, and she says, hey, I'm going to have to ask you to either check that or put it up above in the cargo compartments. I said, well, there's no room in the cargo compartment. She said, we're going to have to check it. I said, this is, at the time, I said, this is a $100,000 box. I said, are you going to be responsible if they throw it around out there? She goes, we'll leave it right there. She goes like that and never said a word to me. After that, I got off the plane. And when I left Vegas, they didn't even come out with the hazmat suits. I just told them, I was like, this is a broadcasting piece of equipment. We're coming from CES. They didn't even balk at it. They just picked it up and carried it. Didn't even take it through the x-ray machine. They did their dusting. So by the time I got through it, I was there to pick it up. So I feel your pain, Jeremy.
wow.
I do.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yep.
So guys, make sure you guys, we're going to wrap this up. Jeremy, thanks again for jumping in and joining us here. We want to do more of this, and you just kind of prove the concept that, yeah, during your live show, we can bring anybody in and get them going and not miss a beat. But you're going to be at the Stream Geeks, and you're all over the forum, so they can, if they see you, now you guys got a face to go with the name. I don't know if that's a good
Yeah.
thing for him, but right.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, Paul Richards invited me on his show tomorrow. So
Oh, okay. What time?
Awesome.
I believe it's 2 p.m. tomorrow.
There you guys go. Go check out Jeremy on the 2 p.m. show, the Stream Geeks show. I'm assuming it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't got all those details from him yet. But
Okay. Well, go over there and support Jeremy. And I know this guy here was on the show last week I tuned in for Streaming Alchemy. He was
awesome.
He was full
Yeah.
of wit.
Yeah, John is our professor. If you want to learn streaming media and you want to learn it at a level that is like university level, this is your guy. John Mahoney, Streaming Alchemy. I can't recommend him enough. And brilliant mastermind behind a lot of the products that we use. It's the same software we're using to bring people into the show here today. I had a blast with him. And Jeremy, there's a chance I might be in New York for Stream Geeks. I want to go. Trying to work some client stuff out to navigate around it. But if I can, I want to come up and take a look at that and say, hey, and anybody else that's there, hey, come up and join us.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
good.
Absolutely. And guys, make sure you check out Jeff and highdef.tv. But yes, a big shout out to John. John actually was helping me with some other things that I was using the Stream Deck for. Got on the phone with me because it wasn't working the way it was supposed to, and I thought I was going crazy. And here it was a networking IP thing, and the guy is like a genius when it comes to certain stuff. Listen, I know when I'm at my limit, and I know when to throw in the towel and wave the white flag and say, like, I've gotten as far as I can go. and he takes it to the next level. So we encourage you guys to check that out. Watch that show. You know, it's a fun show. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in here, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to Telestream YouTube channel, Wirecast, as well as follow us on Instagram. We're over on Instagram, Telestream, as well as LinkedIn, to get all this great content. We've got some great shows coming up for you. So we'll see you next week for more here of On Social. Talk to you then.